Alexander, thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC in the United States. How soon do you think that we are really, truly going to top out every tank, every ship, and every hole in the ground?
Hi, good morning, Brian. Good to be on the show. Yes, it's a very good question. There are a couple of elements. As you mentioned earlier, you have your kind of onshore storage and your offshore storage. The onshore storage is very location specific again. So you were talking earlier about the pressure on WTI. We see a couple of weeks in terms of Cushing. Given the rate of builds, we've seen another kind of 3.5 million barrels or so that should be reported, or we expect to be reported in the stats this week. That only really gives you another 10 to 15 million barrels of usable storage in Cushing. So that's why you're talking about that kind of onward pressure on the June deliverable contract again. Elsewhere in the world, in Pad 3 in the Gulf Coast in the US, we still see storage. And then when you go further afield, we've got about 800 million barrels or so of capacity yet to fill, held by kind of commercial operators. So that's non-governmental storage. But the issue is, it's essentially already been tied up. Whilst there isn't necessarily oil in those tanks at the moment, if you were to try and go out and lease those tanks, you would either find they'd be incredibly expensive or they're just not available. So it's kind of gone. That's the thing. We've seen a build over the last 2 months, so kind of since the start of March, we've seen a build of just under 200 million barrels in tanks onshore. And to your point around oil on the water or offshore storage, we've seen an increase of just under 160 million barrels of crude oil currently sitting in vessels. I think it's important to note that's not just floating storage.
Alex, let me jump in.
Yep.
Let me jump in here for a second, my friend, because it's early here stateside. We got a lot of numbers. So, do you think by mid-May, late May, at this rate of demand and still production, we're finished? No more storage?
I think in Cushing, you're talking early May, so very much the kind of the delivery point for TI, you're looking early May. Further afield, we should see a lot of pressure, certainly by mid-May. We are seeing a bit of a slowdown in crude going into those tanks, but as I say, an acceleration of crude sitting on the water. So there's going to be an issue with logistics just in terms of how quickly you can get that crude into those tanks. But you will see regional pressures certainly by late May.